What is going on? Welcome into Bayou Bengals football. So let's get into it. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, LSU has the fourth best odds to win the, has the fifth best odds, to win the national championship, set at plus 1,100. And I'll say this, being an LSU, talking LSU and being an LSU fan, I think that's a bunch of crap. I think LSU should be the third or fourth best odds to win the national title. Honestly, I think probably the way the odds are set are pretty. I think at least you flip-flop LSU and Michigan. Michigan with the fifth bet. I would take LSU because that's the way I look at it. If Michigan and LSU met on a neutral field, even though I like Michigan too, being from the state of Michigan, I think LSU would win that matchup. So to me, does that necessarily mean by default that LSU should have better odds? Not necessarily, but the point I'm trying to make is I think LSU is a better team than Michigan. I think LSU probably is a better team than Ohio State. LSU may have more NFL draft players or top-ranked NFL draft eligible guys, but I think LSU is probably a better team than Ohio State. Like I think if Ohio State and LSU met on a neutral field, I would have a hard time picking Ohio State. I think LSU probably would be favored. I think LSU would win that game just because I think LSU would present a unique matchup, or it would present a difficult matchup for Ohio State. I think LSU with a healthy Mason Smith and how good their offensive line, I think they would hypothetically win that they would win that matchup. But that's all hypothetical. But yeah, LSU, I think LSU, I would put them third best odds behind Alabama and Georgia. But yeah, LSU, second best odds in the SEC West. So yeah, third best odds in the SEC. Third best odds to win the SEC at plus 450, and then second best odds to win the SEC West at plus 200. So yeah, I think it seems like Alabama. I'm a believer in Alabama this year. I'm still a believer in Georgia. I know it's really hard to three-peat, but yeah, I think LSU, to me, LSU is that perfect kind of contrarian pick, if that makes sense. I think LSU and Georgia to me, if it just feels a little too safe this year. I think, even though it's very likely, it just, if you feel like if you're one of those people that you want the kind of the sneaky good, not really sneaky, but you want the good contrarian pick, I think it's LSU. But the other things I wanted to touch on, so Brian Kelly seems to be optimistic about Kyle Parker's play. Kyle Parker, if you don't know, he's an incoming freshman 4-star wide receiver from Texas. And to me, this says a lot about how well LSU's recruiting. Kyle Parker he's probably their third highest recruited receiver, still a 4-star. But to me, this is how you put together a championship level team. If you look at whether it was Florida State and their recruiting classes they put together into Jimbo Fisher, whether it's Alabama, this is how you build a national title team with superior depth that Brian Kelly's talking about. You land a guy, okay, Kyle Parker, he's our third highest rated receiver in this class according to 24/7 Sports, but he might be our best player and he might be the best freshman wide receiver that he has a chance to be maybe our second, third best wide receiver on this team. And Brian Kelly talked about a guy who works hard in the weight room. Sounds like he's got a strong work ethic. This guy, I mean, the traits that stand out, excellent change of direction. He's got punt return ability. I mean, incredible, just shake and bake, make you miss. I mean, just makes guys look silly, can reverse field. Like I said, change of direction. It's all there for Kyle Parker. This guy is a dude, and I'm excited to see what Parker does year one. And I was listening to, if you go back, listen to Mike Denbrock, the OC for LSU, talk about LSU's depth at tight end. It sounds like Jackson. The Jackson McGowan kid, it's going to be a freshman out of Ohio. Sounds like there's high praise for him. He's kind of just got to develop physically so he can become a good blocker. But to me, I think that guy has a bright future. Mac Markway, this sounds like a guy that's going to be ready to go year one. This is a guy, his blocking really stood out when you watch him on tape. So I think building depth at tight end is going to be crucial because Mason Taylor's a guy that's going to get his next year. in the blocking game and in the receiving game, Mason Taylor's going to do a lot of high-level things for this LSU offense. He's already established himself as a difference maker. So who's going to be that next tight end? Markway. Is Markway going to be that next? Is he going to be that second guy, tight end? You got a guy like Giovanni Patterson, a guy that's been in the program a couple years now. So who steps up as that number 2 tight end? I think Markway is probably the likely candidate just because of the overall skill. Overall, his hands he's got solid like if you look at his he's probably got the best overall skill set when you combine with everything into it combined. He's got solid hands. He's a very, very good blocker. So I think the blocking is going to translate well. Maybe they do add some more weight on him, but yeah, I think all around he's probably he's most likely the candidate for the number 2 tight end. But yeah, it's the tight end room has a chance to really make a 360 jump and be one of the probably go from depth wise maybe kind of middle of the pack to now maybe this is a top 2-3 unit in the SEC. Maybe the number 2 unit just behind Georgia. But yeah, so yeah, I'd go back. I've listened to Brian Kelly's press conferences over and over again. And it sounds like, to me, what I took away, and Matt House, the defensive coordinator, and what I took away, he's talking about Harold Perkins. And Harold Perkins, I like what he said. And Brian Kelly's touched on this a little bit. You know, Harold Perkins came to LSU to learn the linebacker position. He did not come to LSU just to play athlete. Last year they had him play athlete just because, to me, that was good coaching. I mean, you could say it's no-brainer that they had to get Harold Perkins on the field, but to me it was good coaching. It's kind of like, okay, Harold Perkins, we don't know, do we play him do we play him off the edge all the time? Do we play him at linebacker? How about we start simple? Let's just put him somewhere. Let's put him most of the time in the middle of the defense and tell him to go get the ball. Now, I think he's going to do a lot of that this year, but I think they are going to try to do some different things, and he's probably going to learn maybe some more coverage. He's probably going to it sounds like he worked a little bit with the edge rushers too. Maybe they're probably going to teach him some more pass rush moves, get him a little more fundamentally sound as far as that's concerned. But yeah, Harold Perkins, I think this is a guy that you want to teach him things. You want to get him a little more fundamentally sound. You want to get him more comfortable in this defense. But this is a guy you don't want him thinking. You want him making plays. And you saw, I was watching that UAB game and how special Harold Perkins is. I know it's against UAB, but still, when you see a guy close on a player, it's impressive no matter who it's against. UAB runs like a screen pass. You just see Harold Perkins come out of nowhere and make a tackle. I get flashbacks of Devin White watching Harold Perkins because Devin White, even though kind of the knock on him coming out of LSU and in college was missed some tackles because he was going high, but having a guy like Harold Perkins and Devin White back in the day is so critical because the ability to run sideline to sideline and close like that and pursue, you save so much yardage having a guy like that on the football field. And over the season, they say it's a game of inches. It's a game of, a few yards. It comes down to a few plays sometimes, especially even in the NFL, it comes down to a field goal. When it's a game where it comes down to a few things making a big difference, Harold Perkins saving all that yardage over a course of a season, that makes a big difference. And you see now, to win at any level of football, and I've preached this ad nauseum, you need difference makers. Harold Perkins, without a doubt, is a true difference maker, and I'm excited to see him. And as an LSU fan, just being an LSU fan, it's going to be fun to see how many times you say "wow" when Harold Perkins is on the field, and it'll be fun to see. It sounds like they're probably try to play him at Mike linebacker, but yeah, I mean him. I watch Omar Spates. Omar Spates is a better athlete. I say they kind of complement each other. I don't want to say that in a way that takes away from Omar Spates' skill set. Because Spates, has a really good skill set. And he has some more high-end athletic traits than I thought. Like, this is a guy who He can work through traffic very well. It's a guy he moves side to side very well. Obviously doesn't, acceleration bursts are there. Obviously doesn't do these things as well as Perkins, but they are very evident on tape. So yeah, I'm a fan of Omar Speights. Him and Harold Perkins is going to be very stout in the middle of that defense. So I was listening to Major Burns' press conference, and I'm thinking about Major Burns is a guy who, he's one of those guys kind of like Mekhi Wingo. He's not going to be a difference maker, impact guy, I'll say that, unless he really takes his game to another level we haven't seen yet. Because I think at this point we've seen enough of him to establish that he's a solid starter, solid good starter, not necessarily an impact guy. But I think why Major Burns is important is because you have a secondary where you're hoping maybe Zy Alexander, maybe the Ohio State transfer, your hope, or one of the freshmen, maybe it's Toviano, the safety, where you're hoping one of the freshmen breaks out. But Major Burns, you can kind of pencil in at that strong safety spot. Maybe Andre Sam, maybe they get him, maybe he does challenge Burns, maybe they find another position for him. So yeah, as I kind of talk it through, there's a lot of maybes and what ifs. But Major Burns, you get the feel like he's going to be penciled into that strong safety spot. You get the feel, even if it's not strong, you get the feel that Burns is going to be penciled into a starting spot. It looks like the strong safety position. And you feel that Burns has enough experience now and enough and is a good enough all-around player, intelligent enough to be the unsung hero of this LSU team. So every championship team needs a few unsung heroes. If you look 2019 LSU, Thaddeus Moss to me was kind of that guy. He was kind of, Thaddeus Moss, I think a lot of people understood he didn't really have a bright future as far as the NFL was concerned, but Thaddeus Moss was the perfect guy, when Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase are taken away, Thaddeus Moss. And to me, the LSU defense, when teams we got to stay away from Mason Smith, watch out for Harold Perkins, Omar Speights. To me, Major Burns is that guy that can still make some plays and fly around and be around the football and make enough plays where he is kind of that guy that when defenses aren't thinking about, he's going to make a play. And to me, I think Greg Brooks is kind of that guy too. To me, Brooks and Burns kind of the same guys. Really good, solid players. I think they should have leadership. I think they're competitive. They're tough. But I don't think. To me, they're not guys you can consistently lean on to make game-changing plays. That's going to be Mason Smith and Harold Perkins, but watch for Major Burns this year. Hopefully he stays healthy. Hopefully he can be one of the unsung heroes on this LSU defense. But yeah, defensive line, Savion Jones. Hopefully Savion Jones takes another step this year. Matt House was praising Savion Jones. Savion Jones was on this guy I was listening to interviewed on another channel. Sounds like an awesome guy, and he's a guy I think, to me, I don't know if Savion Jones has as maybe the breakout big-time year, but I think he's a guy you'll see he'll take another step this year, and he'll do some nice things on this LSU defense. Deshaun Womack, I mean, this is a guy that's can threaten you with speed off the edge, and I think that was LSU's plan with recruiting a guy like Deshaun Womack, where, okay, last year, we had Ujulare, Ali Gay. They're kind of similar guys that could come off the edge with quickness, but not necessarily could come off the edge with some serious speed. We're not going to probably use Perkins as much off the edge. Getting a guy like Womack that can really threaten people off the edge and win one-on-ones with speed, I think is a perfect complement to Harold Perkins, Mason Smith's size inside. So I think Womack is a guy that he's a perfect guy for later in the year. Say LSU's in it, or not necessarily later in the year, maybe in a fourth quarter, maybe at Florida State where they need Womack comes in and they ask him to win a one-on-one and he gets a critical sack late in the game. Maybe I've hinted at the way they win the Florida State game, but yeah, Deshaun Womack I think is a really talented player. He's a guy that, Brian Kelly said something about it doesn't really take much skill to evaluate five-star guys. And while I wasn't blown away about with Deshaun Womack, you can tell that a lot of five-star guys, that is the one trait that really kind of gets them penciled in as a 5-star guy, that quickness off the ball, and then that speed and burst around the edge. Now, I didn't necessarily remember seeing great bend, but it looks like he's got some bend, like he's at least can do it. So I think Womack, this is a guy that I have a hard time believing they're going to redshirt. You got to believe that they're going to find a way to get this guy on the field. Same with Zealand's Hurd. You got to believe this is a guy that they're going to have a chance to get on the field. So I've talked the offensive line, and Mason Lunsford's another guy, transfer from Maryland. I was blown away by how competitive he was, and he's a guy it's got some ability. Do I think Lunsford's a guy that's going to come in, take a starting job for someone? No, but I think Lunsford's a perfect guy to have if you do have some injuries. I think he's a guy that I think he can play. I think he can play tackle. I would not. I don't know if I would have like a lot of trust in him playing tackle, but this is a guy I think that could be a very solid guard, and that's what he's projected to come in as be a backup guard. But yeah, I was impressed with Lunsford, guy that's got experience, started at Maryland last year. Surprised he came to LSU. To be honest, it seems like it's a guy that probably would have a chance of starting at a lot of other programs, but he saw something in LSU, and it sounds like, I guess I can't speak for him, but I got to believe that he really wants to win a national championship. That's why Omar Spates came to LSU, wanted to go to a team where he's got a chance to win a national championship. And that kind of goes back to, I really want to hammer this point home. I think LSU is the fun contrarian pick. I've always kind of been like that. You know, I do like to take the chalk, but I also do like the fun contrarian pick. I think Clemson's another team I really like this year. I know Florida State's kind of a popular team. Some people do believe in Michigan. I know being following Michigan too, being a Michigan fan as well. I think Michigan does have a chance to get to the national title or get to the playoff. You know, winning a national title is a little different story because Michigan been to the playoff the last 2 seasons, but have lost in the first round both times. So getting to the playoffs is one thing. Can you get to the national championship is the next step, and then can you win the national championship against likely in Alabama or Georgia, which is a tall task in itself. Yeah, another thing Brian Kelly talked about is they need to get off the field on third down. And as the more I've watched LSU's defense this year, I kind of came away saying the same thing. LSU had too many. They did not force enough 3-and-outs. I think that's one thing that's going to be critical for LSU this year. And I think each time they get a 3-and-out, I think they really need to celebrate that. I think that is something because they need to kind of play the psychology thing. Once like Urban Meyer used to say, he used to tell his team, get a first down. Because once you get one first down, what do you think? You can get another one. I think that's something that LSU needs to emphasize. At least one time early in the game, can we force a 3-and-out? Because if you can do it once, and if you can do it once, usually you can do it twice. So I think LSU, they've got to emphasize, I know they will emphasize getting off the field on third down, but if I was Brian Kelly, I would emphasize get a 3-and-out. Easier said than done, but can we get a 3-and-out early in the first half? Most likely in the first quarter, or ideally on the first drive, but you want one somewhere early in the game. I think that's critical. You don't want your defense. I think that kind of led into the other issue of them getting tired and their depth getting exposed, because as their defense was on the field longer and longer, that really led to them getting tired and their depth being exposed. But I'm a lot more confident by the way Brian Kelly's talking about their conditioning this year. I'm a lot more confident in this team's conditioning, and I'm a believer that their depth is going to be better this year, and they're going to be this team's going to be in better shape, and they're going to hold up for 4 quarters. But yeah, so Mike Denbrock, I thought it was cool. He was talking about Jaden Daniels, and he's talking about Jaden Daniels he wants him to be more consistent as a downfield passer. Jaden Daniels was talking about, sounds like he did some work in the offseason, going to quarterback camps, getting coached up. So I think that's really cool. Jaden Daniels, he strikes me as a guy who, I don't really know what drives Jaden Daniels. That's kind of like the next step. As a scout, I kind of like to sometimes I like to listen to guys talk just to see some guys you can tell. Like I listen to Jamar Chase. You can tell Jamar Chase. Listen to him talk. He's an alpha competitor. He's a put the head down, grind, get after it day in and day out type of guy. I get that vibe from Jaden Daniels somewhat, but I think Jaden Daniels is a guy who, I'm not trying to take anything away. I think he is a guy that was blessed with I think he's got a lot of natural ability. I think he's got a strong work ethic, but the ones that are great, like I would need to be around Jaden Daniels to really answer that question. Is this guy really driven to be great? So there's a lot of signs pointing in the right direction for LSU, for Jaden Daniels to be great. You see second best odds to win the Heisman. He's on a team that has the potential to win a national championship. He's second year in an offense with coaches returning. So there's a lot of things in place for Jaden Daniels to improve. Sounds like he's putting the work in the offseason. So we have a lot of evidence to believe that he's going to have a better season. Can he is the question, and can he improve his numbers? And is he a guy who, like, if the over and under, like I'm thinking about what the over and under would be on his touchdown passes. Like, would the over and under be like more than his touchdown passes this past season? You got to believe it probably would be pretty close. I feel like whatever it is, you got to believe a lot of people, with all things people are hearing, you got to believe people would bet on the over. But the thing I do love about Jaden Daniels is he takes pride in not turning the ball over. You saw a couple, was it 2019 at Arizona State, 2 interceptions, just a few interceptions this past season. So you gotta love a guy who I think that's why a lot of people believed Jaden Daniels was going to win the starting job, because he is a guy that takes pride in, or Brian Kelly, I think, is a guy that takes pride in quarterbacks not turning the ball over. Now, is Daniels too conservative? Does he take off to run a little too often? Probably, but by doing so, has he probably saved himself a few extra turnovers that could have been really costly this past season? Probably. So, yeah, we'll see how Jaden Daniels performs this year. We'll see how all the work in the offseason, the second-year offense really translates to his success. But, yeah, it's interesting that a lot of people like Bama. I think – and I haven't really polled this question. I'm in an LSU fan page group on Facebook. I'm in the LSU fans on Reddit. I'm kind of interested about what the fans would think. Obviously there's a lot of fans would be like, yeah, we're winning the SEC for sure next year. But deep down, honestly, like if you did the Robert De Niro. If you did the Robert De Niro lie detector test, what LSU fans honestly think where do they think LSU's honestly going to finish? You have to believe that. There, like I said, there would probably be some that would say LSU for sure is winning the SEC, but I would be very interested to see honestly where a lot of them think they're going to feel. And I know when I've asked these questions, a lot of LSU fans give me who cares what the fan base thinks, which is cool. But I think that's really fun. Like I asked the question, who wants Nussmeier? What percentage of the fan base you guys think wants Nussmeier over Jaden Daniels? And a lot of them went, who cares? It's up to the coaches. Which, yeah, that's that. At the end of the day, yeah, that's the honest answer, and I think that's an answer that shows you trust in the coaching staff. But I think it is fun to kind of have these discussions sometimes, and a lot of times it is kind of cool to get a poll of what the fan base thinks. So, yeah, I think. Honestly, I think LSU does have a chance to win the national championship this year. If I were to bet, you got to believe I would bet Georgia to win. It's hard not to bet Georgia until they are kind of the team where, unless I see, I have a hard time betting against them unless I see evidence, unless I see otherwise. Because Georgia, this team, like as you dive into Georgia, they are. And I don't want to talk Georgia too much. I know this is an LSU podcast, but Georgia is a team that does return a lot of talent. And this is a team that they are not just, even though they've lost some NFL dudes, they are at the point of like Alabama where they just really can reload. They still have difference makers. Michael Williams, Brock Bowers, they still have legit NFL difference makers on their team. So, but yeah, with LSU, I keep forgetting about some of the transfers in the secondary. Andre Sam, a hard hitting safety. It's to me, like I think there's some fun position battles with LSU. With LSU though, Jaden Daniels is going to be the starting quarterback. You get a feel for who the starting offensive line is going to be. But yeah, running back, Josh Williams appears to be the starter, but does Logan Diggs challenge him to get snaps? Does Logan Diggs challenge for that backup spot? So Noah Kane? Yeah, who is Josh Williams likely the starter, but who is kind of that? Who moves into that number 2 spot? Is it Noah Kane? Does Logan Diggs come in and wow the coaching staff that much, and he moves into that number 2 spot? You got to believe they are going to make an emphasis to rotate the running backs. I know. I think it was Den Brock talking that, kind of whoever has the hot hand is who we're going to ride with. But, it's going to be fun to see who does get the hot hand early in games, and do they stick to him, and then what do they really continue to run plays that kind of fit that guy's skill set. And then, the receiver core. I'm really excited. I think Kyle Parker is the guy that breaks out of the freshman wide receiver. I think Shelton Sampson's going to be a really good player too. Kyron Lacey's, you hope he breaks out. Brian Thomas is going to do some nice things. Malik Neighbors has got a really good skill set too. It was cool to see Brian Kelly talk highly of Miles Frazier. Miles Frazier's a really good guard. I think he's another going to be, if LSU does something special this year, I think he's going to be another one of the unsung heroes of the team. Jacoby and Gilroy too on the defensive line. He's another guy that hopefully he can continue to play well and move in the right direction. Jordan Jefferson too, another transfer. Not a lot that wasn't getting a lot of buzz. I know he is a nose tackle. A lot of nose tackles don't really get kind of a lot of hype when they're people land them in the transfer portal. But I think Jordan Jefferson, he's a guy that can be like Wingo. I think to me, he moves pretty well. Now, hopefully, I guess I can't really say based on tape, but he is a guy that appears to really make hopefully you can get quite a bit of snaps for him, and I think he'll be like Wingo. He's a guy that can be stout against the run, and a guy that can really do a lot of nice things and be fairly disruptive on the field. And I think that, will they have him and Wingo in at the same time? I'm not really sure. I think maybe they do sub in Wingo, but I think having him, Wingo and Mason Smith on the field at the same time, I think that brings kind of a unique threat, because you put Jefferson at nose tackle. Jefferson can get off the ball quickly. He can really he can penetrate, especially when guys are down blocking on a zone run play. And then Wingo's stout against the run, and Mason Smith can win one-on-one matchups and really he can plug gaps. So I think with those guys out there, I think that really presents a unique challenge for offenses. And then LSU offensively, I think that I was listening to Denbrock talking. With the offensive line, I think he just wants them to continue to learn when to pick up stunts, when to pick up blitzes on the offensive line. I think that was one thing that was a little concern with the LSU offensive line. I think that was maybe due in part to some of the youth. I think they did struggle to pick up stunts and blitzes a little bit. I think that's when you did see Jaden Daniels get pressured a little bit. But when the defense just kind of when they're just rushing 4 straight ahead, I think that's when you saw a lot of clean pockets. And if LSU can improve that, picking up the stunts and blitzes and not really letting a guy come free and pressure Daniels, I think that is the case for, I'm sure that's what Denbrock and Kelly sees. That is the case for why LSU could become the best offensive line in football. Would be Will Campbell, Emory Jones take another step. Miles Frazier continues to play well. Turner and DeLinger play well. They stay healthy, and they improve as far as playing good as a cohesive unit. You always talk about the offensive line. A lot of times it can be a unit that plays plays so well together that they, as a whole unit, they play even better. They're kind of a sum of all parts. I think that is the argument for LSU taking another step on the offensive line, ability to recognize what the opposing defense is going to do, and out of time, guys. I'm going to wrap with that. Thanks for tuning in to Bayou Bengals football. Make sure to stay tuned for more episodes and clips from the show.